Hello and welcome back to Game of Trades, your #1 channel for videos on the stock market and cryptocurrencies. This video is going to be focused on Bitcoin. This is going to be a very important episode for you guys. We've had Bitcoin grind up throughout the past few weeks with extremely low volume here, taking out its previous all-time high. And we are perhaps seeing some warning signs for the short-term price action. Bitcoin is lacking conviction in this breakout to all-time high. Now, if you've been watching our Bitcoin videos throughout the past few months, you'll know that we are relentless bulls on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. We were big advocates for buying the dip in this area and at the $40,000 level here. We think the long-term case for Bitcoin is just ridiculously bullish as a storehold of wealth asset in this decade of monetary debasement that we're now entering, and also as an asset that beautifully takes advantage of the digitalization of everything, right? Bitcoin is, in our opinion, the purest form of digital money, and we think that's going to be priced in throughout the next few years. But this video is going to be focused on what's going on in the short-term picture so that you guys really have the full view of what we think is going to be happening on Bitcoin. Now, if you're interested in following this crazy asset with us, make sure to smash that subscribe button. And now, without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, before we get into some of the bearish developments that we've seen over the past couple of weeks, I just want to remind you guys the broader perspective on the supply and demand dynamics. These are charts that we've been looking at for the past few months. This is the total supply held by long-term holders, right? You want to see this as high as possible if you're holding Bitcoin, because long-term holders are strong hands. They don't panic sell their asset. They're in Bitcoin for the long term. And so the highest proportion of long-term holders there are in the market, the more solid Bitcoin's price is. So you can see we're currently at all-time high on this long-term holder chart. This is bullish every time we're at all-time highs. It's a pretty good time to be entering in Bitcoin. And when you see a large decline in the total supply held by long-term holders, that's likely the moment to be exiting because the market is a lot more fragile. Same thing happened at the top of the 2017 bull run here. Very little long-term holders here. They were booking profits throughout the entire way up. Now, that's just not the case here. We have a lot of strong hands in the market. But if we look at the short-term holders, right, you want to avoid being in Bitcoin when there's a lot of short-term holders. We're still at incredible lows here. Not many speculative hands, not many people in Bitcoin for the short term. You can see this level compared to where we were at here as we had all that Elon Musk hype and the meme stocks and Bitcoin was going parabolic. We had a lot of fragile holders here that set up the stage for the move down that we had throughout the summer. This is just not the case right now. You can see every time we had this type of supply and demand dynamics, it set up the stage for moves up in Bitcoin here. So this is just a friendly reminder that, supply and demand dynamics right now are bullish for Bitcoin. What I'm going to cover in the rest of this video does not impact the long-term view. It impacts the potential for a short-term correction. So let's get right into that. Now, the first development that's really catching my eye here that we've been discussing at gameoftrades.net and really talking about how we should approach this regarding what we put out in our articles and how this affects the short-term case on Bitcoin. Look at this indicator here. This is the revived supply last active more than 5 years ago. So these are Bitcoin that have stayed inactive, so being held without being bought or sold for over 5 years, and they're now being revived and put back into circulation. You can see this is quite an impressive move up in this revived supply. If you look back over the past year here, every time this happens, it warns you that there's going to be some type of a correction or some type of a consolidation. It happened here in November, big spike in this revived supply that was followed by, this was a 20% correction on Bitcoin and over a couple of months of sideways trading range. Here, this was the big spike that we had in January 2021. That was followed obviously by another 20% correction here. Another big spike right here corresponds to the top, followed by correction. So this is not good news here for Bitcoin in the short term. So if you think about these Bitcoin, these are investors that have been holding their Bitcoin for a long time. They know what the market is like. They know how the market works. They know how volatility works. They know how to take advantage of it, and they are clearly key players in the market price action on Bitcoin. So this is a big one here. If you've been watching our videos, you'll know that we hate to get bearish on Bitcoin. We just love the asset so much as a long-term play, but this is not good for the short term. Again, we don't like to give high convictions on our short-term calls. We think Bitcoin is a long-term play, and you shouldn't be trying to trade the short-term price action. But this is telling us that we might see a correction over the next few weeks, and it might trigger some buying opportunities. So I would suggest having some nice buy orders in at lower levels. If you're looking to enter into Bitcoin, there are only a handful of times where we've been able to collect Bitcoin at a lower price. This is perhaps going to be one of them. We will be posting a detailed overview of Bitcoin in the weekly wrap that we do on our website on gameoftrades.net. We take a look at everything in these weekly updates, from the on-chain to the technicals to the actual market sentiment. We take a look at yields that have just a massive impact on Bitcoin in the short and longer term. And in this week's update, we're going to be putting our Bitcoin rating, where we give our convictions for the short term, whether it's a buy, a hold, or a sell for the short term, intermediate term, longer term. We do that with Ethereum as well, and with the general altcoin market, and whether or not it's the best time to be entering into altcoins. So if you're interested in having access to this article, make sure to go and check out our website at gameoftrades.net and test out our free trial. If you're also interested in trading, we have a trading watch list where we take a look at all the different assets, the different sectors, the different setups that we're looking at as potentially profitable trades throughout the next few months, the entries and exits that we're looking at on these assets, and of course the past ideas, where you can actually check out all the different trades that we've had over the past few months and how they played out, what we said on each of these assets, and how they ended up working out. Now, another thing that I don't like on Bitcoin right now is this higher high here, as we're making a new all-time high here at 68K. And look at what's happening with the RSI. We're making a lower high on this RSI. This is a measure of momentum. You typically want to see momentum confirm the price action. So if you want to evaluate the probability of a breakout actually holding, right, this is a breakout to all-time highs. We took out the previous high. You typically don't want to see divergence build on that type of move. Ideally, we would have wanted to see a big, powerful, parabolic move, big momentum, and take out that previous RSI high, because this is telling me that the uptrend that we're seeing is losing steam and perhaps doesn't have what it takes to hold this breakout. So these divergences can extend. That's how you get wedge patterns. You get another higher high, maybe we make a run up to 70K, make another lower high on the RSI, and maybe that's going to be a short-term top on Bitcoin for a nice 20% correction. Who knows how this is exactly going to play out? I don't think anybody has the answer to that. The reason I don't think it's going to happen straight away is because of the total transfer volume and loss that's not yet at an extreme low, right? When you have a big top on Bitcoin, it tends to be accompanied by an extreme low on this indicator here, the total transfer volume and loss. Because if this is extremely low, it tells you nobody's losing, and it's very likely that market participants are starting to book profits on their Bitcoin. So you can see that. I'm not going to go through each top on Bitcoin, but systematically you have a top coincide with an extreme low on the total transfer volume and loss. Same thing here in January, an extreme low. Same thing here in February, an extreme low. Back in September, in this area here, total transfer volume and loss was extremely low. Right now, not so much. So maybe we get another pump up on Bitcoin, see this indicator come down to lower levels before we get a correction. We'll see how it occurs. We'll see how it plays out. From a technical standpoint, if we look at some support levels that we're looking at on Bitcoin, we still have this nice neckline from the head and shoulder pattern that we had back here on Bitcoin. That's just a tremendous trend line to look at right? It acted as resistance here, and it's very possible that we come back and retest it, maybe undercut it slightly, and even perhaps retest this price channel support here. This is solid support, and that also happens to coincide with the 100-day moving average that's currently hovering around 50k, maybe, and it might be at around 55k by the time we get here. So this is just going to be a tremendous zone of support, high probability entry on Bitcoin. There's no guarantee that we get this move. All of this really depends on what your current situation is on Bitcoin. If you're looking to enter, maybe wait to see how this situation resolves itself, have some buy orders set in at lower support levels. But if you're watching this video to know if you should be booking profits on your Bitcoin, probably not. Again, Bitcoin supply and dynamics are great, and we have some massive upwards potential for Bitcoin to rise in the next few months. You have to be able to hold through some short-term volatility if you're willing to take advantage of those big returns. You're not going to be able to time every top, not every bottom, so just hold through. Now, that's about all I wanted to cover in this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now, in the meantime, I wish you good luck on your trading and see you next time.